Look, let's be real for a second. The whole landscape of education has completely shifted. It really wasn't that long ago that public school enrollment was pretty much a given. A family moved into a neighborhood, and boom, their kids went to the local school. But today? Well, today, student recruitment is honestly one of the absolute most pressing, complex challenges that district administrators face. Families have choices now, and public schools, they have to actively make their case. So, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to decode a highly targeted strategy manual that was designed to solve this exact problem. We're going to break down the methodology right from its cover and see exactly how it transforms a massive administrative headache into a clear, actionable game plan.
All right, let's jump right into the source material. We're looking at the cover of a document titled The Top 5 Strategies for Recruiting New Students. Now, at first glance, it might just look like your standard professional guide. But as you zoom in on the visual cues and the text, it actually reveals a remarkably comprehensive methodology hidden right there in plain sight. Literally every single design choice here, from the text layout to those specific icons at the bottom, is deliberately placed to communicate a system. We're going to unpack this piece by piece to really understand the blueprint it's offering.
Section 1. The Recruitment Challenge. So before we even get into the actual strategies, we have to look at who this document is actually talking to. The title doesn't just broadly say recruiting new students. It explicitly states in local public school districts, and that is a crucial distinction. We are not talking about elite private academies with massive marketing budgets, and we definitely aren't talking about massive universities recruiting globally. It is laser-focused on the local public school district. By calling this out so prominently right away, the authors are setting the stage. They're validating that local districts now have to start thinking like recruiters and positioning this entire strategy as a specialized solution for a very specific type of educational leader.
Moving on to Section 2, the TMQ approach.
Okay, right below that main title, we hit the core methodology. The subtitle introduces a TMQ quantified approach, and it immediately defines that acronym for us: Target, Meet, Qualify. So what's brilliant here is how this simple acronym breaks down what is normally a super daunting challenge into 3 logical, totally doable steps. First, you target. You figure out exactly who you need to reach in your community. Then you meet. You get out there and actually engage with those prospective families. And finally, you qualify. You make sure they're the right fit for the district and guide them through the paperwork. It takes this overwhelming panic of we need more students and turns it into a structured step-by-step pipeline.
Next up, Section 3, a quantified strategy.
Now, what's really fascinating is how this transitions from a high-level acronym to the promise of a quantified approach. Check out these 4 distinct golden icons lined up along the bottom. They visually represent the actual tools of modern data-driven recruitment. Over on the far left, you've got a growth chart showing an upward trend over a bar graph, obviously tracking enrollment numbers and aiming for growth. Next to that, there's a magnifying glass with an exclamation point, which symbolizes the need to really look closely at community data and zero in on target demographics. Then you have a thumbs up, the universal sign for confirming success, maybe a great family meeting. And lastly, a data checklist with check marks, which perfectly aligns with that qualify step of getting all the enrollment criteria met. These aren't just decorative little graphics. They literally represent the quantified workflow.
But hey, data alone doesn't put students in seats, right? We have to connect those data icons back to the real-world imagery, right in the center. We see this modern, welcoming public school building, a classic yellow school bus ready to go, and, most importantly, administrators actively interacting with a family. You see a mother, a father, and a student with a backpack. This is a perfect illustration of the meet phase in action. What we're being told here is that sure, the strategy is quantified and relies on charts, but the actual execution, that happens out front, face to face. It brings the necessary human element into the structured strategy.
All right, Section 4, authors and origins.
Let's play detective for a second and look at the origins here to see what it tells us about the source. Up in the top left corner, there's this stark white silhouette of a state map. It's Arkansas. This geographic cue grounds the whole methodology in a very specific, hyperlocal reality. But contrast that single state map with the authorship credit at the very bottom. We don't just have one author sitting in a room, we have a diverse collaborative team of 4, Rolanda Robinson, Theresa Let Her Cook, Kristian Stclair, and Camille Vollmar. So this tells us the TMQ strategy isn't just one person's theory. It's a synthesized methodology born from a whole team's combined expertise, focused squarely on an Arkansas district context, but clearly designed to be a broad, applicable framework.
And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates that this strategy is part of a much larger ongoing conversation. If you glance at the very top banner above the main title, it explicitly reads TMQ Quantum Series, Volume 2. This is a massive takeaway. It means this isn't just some one-off pamphlet. The phrase quantum series implies a deep, multifaceted approach to administration. And the fact that it's Volume 2, that indicates this methodology is actively being refined and expanded. There was clearly a Volume 1 that built the foundation, and now they're digging even deeper into the top 5 specific recruitment strategies.
So, we've unpacked a ton just by examining how this strategy manual presents itself. We've seen how it explicitly targets local public schools, breaks the pipeline down into target, meet, and qualify, backs it all up with data, and grounds it in human connection and team expertise. So the ultimate question it leaves us with is this. Is your local district still crossing its fingers, relying on the passive hope that families will just show up? Or are they ready to actively target, meet, and qualify their way to enrollment success using a quantified approach like this one? It's a tough question for sure, but in today's educational environment, finding that answer might just be the absolute most important thing a district can do. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning out there.